Hi everyone, I'm Vishnu. I'm the founder and CEO of Ente. Today I have the pleasure of talking to Bitar, who was the founder and CEO of Standard Notes.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Tell us the origin story for Standard Notes.
I always just build note-taking app. Yeah, maybe a bit lonely and ran like a dog for these 6 years. I don't know. I was feeling tired.
So give me one word to describe Proton.
Proton? Proton? What's the first word? I would say impressive.
Hello Mo, thank you for joining us. It would be great if you could introduce yourself, share your background, and tell us the origin story for Standard Notes.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So it's crazy to think it's been 10 years since I founded Standard Notes. Maybe 9 years. On the one hand, it's a long time, but on the other hand, I think like Figma was like founded at the same time, and they're now a public corporation, and Standard Notes is like this small company. So it's just crazy to me how, where we spend our time. But I started tinkering with privacy software in like 2015, 2016, in the Snowden era, where everyone started really becoming aware of what was happening with our data online. And, I was playing with like Monero, things like that. And, if you know me, you know that I always just build note-taking apps. I don't know what it is about me. It's like I'll start some unrelated product and it'll morph into a notes app, and that's been just my history. I just love building note-taking apps, and maybe because I used to like to write. I don't know what happened now. I don't write as much. I don't have any more interesting thought. All my thoughts were had in my 20s. Now I just live. So I wrote a lot, and I started building yet another note-taking app. And this time I sort of just incorporated everything I've learned throughout the years. I mean, I got into software development. I mean, I've sort of been doing it my whole life, but I didn't seriously get into it until the App Store came out on iOS. And so I started tinkering and playing around there. And, it took maybe... So that was in 2009, 2010, but it took maybe 5 years of learning how to ship and build products to learn how to make Standard Notes not just be an app, but a business. So that was the main breakthrough with Standard Notes, was that you don't want to build just like an app. You want to build a brand, a business, a packaging, something that, contains the app. And so that's what Standard Notes was. It was a mission more than anything, and it was to to usher in privacy, security, productivity. So it was a simple, the software itself is simple. The encryption is the hard part. That's always the case with tools like ours. It's the encryption that makes everything so damn hard, prohibitively hard. It keeps all competitors at bay. You don't have to worry about, no one's going to want to do encryption voluntarily. It's miserable. So yeah, that was 2016. And it's sort of, this was around the time where Evernote modified their privacy policy, and they said, we're going to start training AI on your data. And that was really great for me because it was so easy to pick a fight there. It's like, you're doing what with my data? These are my notes. Like, these are not yours. These are mine. Why are you training your systems and letting your employees access it? So it was a very easy layup for me to be able to say, like, okay, well, Standard Notes just solves all this, guys. Like, why are you putting your stuff in Evernote? They're gonna see your stuff. They're gonna train on your stuff. With Standard Notes, it's end-to-end encrypted, so you don't have to worry about that. So that was the background, and it took off. It didn't like explode, but it was a good business to run up until it didn't end, but just that we eventually sold to Proton. We can get into that later, but that's the high level overview.
Got it. Then I'll piggyback on that, right? So the Proton acquisition happened last year, like mid last year, right? Now
2024, yeah.
Could you shed some 2024, so could you let us know how that happened?
So in in 2020, well, I'll start all the way at the earliest that I could possibly think, which was in like 2017. I emailed Andy Yen, of CEO of Proton, and I was like, "Hey, Andy, just a cold email. Yeah, I noticed that you guys are sort of a for-profit company, but you accept donations on your website. Like, how is that working out for you? Is that something you recommend?" And he replied. He was very nice. He was like, "Yeah, people sometimes just want to support. So the product, they understand it's not like a non-for-profit, but." So he gave some helpful advice there, and that was really well. And then fast forward to maybe 2021 or something, we wanted to start using Proton Mail for our support inbox for like if people wanted to have encryption with their support correspondences with us, they could email our Proton account. And the only thing that was available was STD notes. Now, STD is short for standard, but it just didn't look right. So I emailed Andy. I was like, is there any chance you could get us standard notes at protonmail.com? And he said, yeah, let me check on this. And he was able to get it for us. He offered the owner like a visionary plan, and he relinquished it. So that was like, so at least he knew my name. When I finally reached out in 2022, I think it was 2022. I've lost track of the years by now, but maybe end of 22. I'm like, hey Andy, for 2022. That's 6 years into running the business. You get tired, you get burnt out. And you just got to keep going. And sometimes the burnout heals quickly, sometimes it doesn't. So for whatever reason, and loneliness may have been a big part of it. Just being a very distributed team. It's only maybe 4 or 5 people. But, I was in the U.S. Everyone else was in Europe or something. And so, yeah, maybe a bit lonely and just, ran like a dog for these 6 years. And I don't know. I was feeling tired. And I email him saying, have you guys ever thought about Proton Notes? And if so, let's talk. Something like that. Like, it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to collaborate. And he's like, we haven't, wasn't on our mind, but, we can talk. So we got on a call maybe, I don't know, some number of weeks later. And it was a good call. And he's like, ultimately, like, you need to come out here and we need to see you. We need to meet you, see if you're a real person. You're not a serial killer. And so I think I ended up flying out there 2023. And, this is where it starts to get into the details, which we can go into. You just feel free to stop me if it gets too deep into the weeds. But I go into Geneva. I go into their office. I mean, their office is like stunning. It's so cool. I was like, man, I wish I worked here. Like because me working from home for the past 6 years, you just look at, it's like, oh my God, there's people and there's lunch and it's like, oh man, I miss this. And the vibe was so great and I felt so like it was a really positive experience. And I'm like, man, I would love to be a part of this. So, it was just casual conversation, nothing serious at that point. We're just sort of getting to know each other. And I go back home and, we think about it, they think about it. And, obviously at this point, no one's really sure of anything. And so he's like, Andy's very big on co-location. He wants everyone to be in the same office, or at least in an office. I mean, Proton's got a bunch of offices. He wants everyone to be in some kind of office, which I don't blame him. It is really good for productivity. But obviously, I was in the U.S., and so he's like, would you consider moving? And, the thought of moving to Europe had never crossed my mind. But at that point, I was so burnt out and so romanticized by what I had seen there that I was like, you know what, Andy, maybe I would move to Geneva. And it wasn't until a week later I emailed him back. I was like, you know what, Andy, I'm not gonna move. Like, I think I started coming to my senses a little bit. Like, I can't move to, my whole family's here. My wife's family's here. My daughter's cousins are here. And so they're like, okay, you know what? You don't need to move to Geneva. And so, we started getting into it, and they showed some serious interest. And eventually they made an offer. And it was at this point that I started getting, maybe you can call it cold feet. I started talking to lawyers and accountants, and it started getting so complicated. I was so overwhelmed. I was like, because it's an international transaction, I need to find a Swiss lawyer. Then I need to find, a lawyer I can trust on the American side. And I didn't know how much this was going to cost. I mean, I was thinking it was going to be like $50,000 to $100,000, and I started getting just super overwhelmed. And believe it or not, I mean, this is going to sound silly. So it's gotten a little bit better, maybe, but I have a crazy fear of flying. And I knew that if I joined Proton, I would have to go out there like twice a year. And that started scaring me. Everything started scaring me. And I was like, and it wasn't just fear. It was also like, okay, but this is my business. This is everything that I built. And if I sell it, is there anything else for me? Like, what's next for me? I've only ever built note-taking apps. Can I really figure out another product to sell here? Or I didn't think that I had other ideas in me because I hadn't thought of anything. I've been so obsessed with standard notes for the longest time. And so all these thoughts, and I just sort of crashed, and I just said, you know what, Andy, I can't do this. It was just too much. And so that was the end of it. That was maybe May 2023. And I went back to work. That sort of energized me, that motivated me. It's like, okay, now that I turned them down or canceled sort of the talks, now I have to make up for it. Like I have to prove myself here. And so I was very motivated. So I went in, I did some really intense work for 3 months. When really, I did more dev work. I should have been doing marketing work. I mean, that's always been my flaw. Just always coding when I should have been doing like, suit and tie stuff. And everything was going great. We get a daily email report sent to our inbox from our database server side that gives us a daily report. Here are your sales from yesterday. Here's how many subscriptions you've sold, things like that. And the numbers were going up, and I was like, okay, this is awesome. Like our hard work is paying off. Like, good thing we didn't sell. And at some point, I was looking into something, and it turns out that our Apple in-app purchases were being double counted, maybe triple counted, in some cases in our analytics tool. And that just crushed me because, our team was getting hyped about these numbers. I was getting hyped, and it turned out it wasn't real. The growth wasn't real. It was all a mirage. And during that same time, I got really sick with some kind of flu and these things. And I experienced a low that I've never experienced in my life before. I mean, it was just devastating. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't sell. I can't. I mean, man, there's been burnouts before, but this was something spectacular. I mean, this was something else. And yeah, I was just devastated. I was like, what did you do? Like, you had that, it was your only chance to move on and do something and to take this business. And I started thinking about my users. I'm like, I'm holding data for hundreds of thousands of users, and it's like important data, and it's like, who am I to hold all this for people? And the weight of that just crushed me, and I'm like, man. So yeah, this was September 2023, maybe October, something like that. And yeah, it was really devastating, and I was like, yeah, it was tough, and I felt like I screwed it all up. And so I don't know. I email Andy again, and well, someone had tweeted and mentioned us and Proton, and someone tweeted, said, hey Proton, you guys should buy out Standard Notes already. And so I used that as a excuse to email him. I'm like, looks like people are still thinking about this. And I told him essentially like I feel bad about how things ended. And he replied a couple weeks later. It was a hard couple weeks. I didn't really expect him to reply, to be honest. I did what I could. The rest was on him, and so he replied saying, look, no hard feelings at all. I mean, and something like, in the long run, maybe our paths may converge, but for now, it's not really something we're thinking about, and I wish you the best. And I was like, oh man, that hurts. And so I don't know what I said, but I was like, okay, cool, yeah, for sure. And if Proton Docs or Proton Notes ever crosses your mind again, get in touch. This is what I love to build. And he was like, you know what, actually, we are thinking about Proton Docs. And one thing led to another, and we flew out to Geneva again. This time I brought some of my team members, and I pushed through. The legal side ended up not being as crazy. The legal bill was maybe like $10,000. The accounting bill, they didn't even charge me for the time. I don't know why, because it was like a couple calls with the accountant, and so it was way less complicated than I thought. I thought acquisitions were really complex and intimidating, but really it's just a paper that you sign. That's it. That's what an acquisition is. It's just a paper. And so I was like, that if I'd known it was going to be that simple, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have backed down the first time. And so, that was maybe February 2024. And we announced in April 2024, and we got to work on Proton Docs right away. Not right away, maybe in a span of a couple months, and then we shipped Docs in June of 2024.
Nice. I mean, I'm glad that it actually worked out. It is really nice of Andy to kind of continue the conversation even after it kind of broke midway. So that's really nice. So I'll actually continue on this thread, right? See, from the perspective of a founder, like, what was the impact of selling your company? And I'm asking this because I look at Ente like a baby, and I'm very emotionally attached to what has been created. And I'm hoping that since it's been like a year since the acquisition, you've had time to distance yourself from the episode in some sense and kind of reflect and achieve a sense of closure. So I would like to understand like what worked well and what did not, and what did you not see coming, and like if there's something you could have actually done differently.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you play around in the stock market or things like that, where sometimes you buy something and then you sell, and sometimes you sell and in retrospect you look back a couple months, you're like, man, I was a genius. I sold at the right time. Other times you sell the stock too early, you're like, damn it, like it skyrocketed right after I sold it. And so it's the same thing here. I sold shares of Standard Notes, and for the first couple months I didn't know whether to root for Standard Notes or whether for it to just continue doing what it had been doing, because the reason I sold was because I couldn't really grow it to what it needed to be at to sustain a larger team. Standard Notes was a great business when I was solo, and I was solo for a long time, maybe 4 years. And because of all the burnout and some injuries, like there were episodes where I just found it really hard to work. And so I had to grow the team. And once you grow the team, you don't know when to stop. It's really hard to know how many people you should hire, whether to invest, whether to go in the red to hire. All these things were new to me, so I didn't know the answers to everything. And So yeah, I mean, we struggled to really grow it, or I struggled. The growth was very slow, and the churn was not great. Now, I don't know if that's something to do with Standard Notes or the industry, where note taking is just a very, you know, a lot of disloyalty in that space. Everyone's always trying something new. Everyone gets really unhappy at the slightest inconvenience. It's very portable. So yeah, it was, yeah, I felt like I wasn't doing it service, and I thought that I thought it was a great product. It was the code was excellent. Everything about it was great, but we sucked at marketing. I suck at marketing, and Proton is really good at marketing. So I thought, this would be a great opportunity to lead it to the next level. But ultimately, I didn't really change much. I don't know. It didn't really start growing again until like ChatGPT started pushing out recommending Standard Notes. And so I saw that, I was like, oh wow, yeah, I didn't predict that. I mean, we got a ton of traffic from Google, but the traffic from like ChatGPT started going up, and Standard Notes being so established in the online sphere, it was easy for LLMs to recommend it because it's so prevalent in the training data and that's very valuable to have. And it's, I don't know how difficult that is to build again for a new product. Maybe it's easier than I imagine, or maybe the recency might make it easier. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I don't think I have. I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't think. I mean, I think ultimately, in retrospect, now I don't have regrets about this because I couldn't have known. But in retrospect, I think what I had was a really good business. I think it was a cash flow generating business, and it was consistent. And what you'll find is that actually, so, when Proton paid me for the acquisition, you get a bunch of cash up front, right? And you expect that when you get this cash, that you'll feel a sense of richness. But that's not what happened. Instead, I felt poorer than before, because when you get a lump of cash, and if this lump is not like hundreds of millions of dollars, if it's like a more modest sum, the best thing you could do is just put it in a bank account and never think about it again. You'd be foolish to spend it because it's not coming back. There's no more acquisitions to be had. And so that's what happened. I put it in separate accounts, and it wasn't mine anymore. It was just like this safe thing that I needed to protect because I'd worked so hard for it. And instead, my cash flow went down. My monthly cash flow went down. I mean, yeah, I had a salary, but it wasn't even enough to break even every month with my expenses. And so what ended up happening was that I felt, I got poorer. Not to say I'm not grateful for all of this, but the economics of it is that I learned that cash flow is more important than having a sum of cash in your bank. So if you can cash flow some amount more than your income, if your expenses are $5,000 a month and you're getting in cash flow of $10,000, that's really good. Whereas, yeah, the alternative of just having a lump sum of cash and breaking even every month is not ideal. And so I started feeling the crunch, and eventually that's what led to me having to leave Proton. And we can get into that. I don't want to talk forever here, but it really was just, and they, even if they paid me more and they were open to it, salary wise, there's a cap. There's a limit to how much you can possibly pay a salaried person, and to me, I realized that the only way to get going again is to start another company, and so that's where I am now.
Got it. So I'll again continue on what you left at, right, which was leaving Proton, because I felt that was one of the interesting things that came out of this, like you flying down there, seeing the vibe of the place, and kind of wanting to work with other folks. So, like, what changed? Like, what worked well there, and why did you end up forfeiting, like, whatever you had?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was an awesome experience. The first year was an awesome experience because I'd never worked in a company, which I would call a large company, is like 500 people. I didn't understand what it meant to work on a large team. I didn't, like, how do you guys do that? Like, every time I saw a big company ship things, it's like, who's doing that? Like, how are you guys? It was mind-boggling to me. But, once I got in there, I figured it out. It's like, oh, okay, just because it's a large company, the teams are actually small within the company. And so it's the same thing. Same thing as Standard Notes, where the team is small. And so you just subdivide the larger team. And so it's the same thing. And so that was like, understanding how big companies worked. But, figuring out, I'm a startup-y guy. I just ship things. I work fast. I have a disregard for protocol and for not like a blatant disregard, but I cherish shipping more than I do process. And it's not, Proton wasn't like super heavy on process. I think they've got a pretty good balance. But it's why we were able to ship Proton docks so quickly. Is that we had that balance of people who were really good at op stuff and planning and things, and I elevated to that level a little bit too. I did a lot of planning and product spec and design, and so I think it was a great experience. Honestly, there's really nothing. Look, I mean, entrepreneurs are going to be entrepreneurs, and it's in there. I don't know what it is about our sort of, mental disposition that, I don't know, we're always itching to do something that challenges us, that impresses ourselves, that, and, eventually at any job, most likely you will plateau and you will start working on, the same thing over and over again. And you operate in a permission-based environment where, you have to consider everyone else on the team. And so I just missed doing stuff. And I missed the great thing about salary jobs or positions is that there's a floor that you never go under in terms of compensation, but there's a ceiling too. And that's the problem. The ceiling is the problem in that, we built and shipped, the Standard Notes team built and shipped Proton docks. It was a great experience. It was a great product. It was one of the best marketing exposure performance-wise for Proton. But in the end of it, what do we get? Like, and I'm not, this is a critique on employment in general. What did I get? I got a good job, Mo. Nicely done. No, you couldn't possibly give me a raise enough to compensate for how much value we brought to you. And so when it came to the next thing, let's say that Proton may have wanted us to build, let's say, I don't know, Proton, I don't want to reveal their plans, but let's say Proton calculator or something, then I was faced with the same decision. I was like, okay, well, I busted my ass off for Proton docks, and in return, I got a pat on the shoulder, and I now have the opportunity to do the same thing again for Proton calculator. And my body and my mind stopped me, and it was like, why? Why would you work harder than you need to here if the result is the same, if the reward is the same? Whether you work this hard or this hard, it's the same reward. And yeah, my mind can't compute that. My mind just doesn't. It shuts down. It doesn't let me do work in these scenarios, and I think that's the entrepreneur's curse. Is not that they may necessarily be too good for employment, but that their mind just doesn't let them do the job because it says it doesn't make sense. Like the formula is off, and so it shuts down. And so yeah, I just I realized that the only way to get that reward is to go the entrepreneurial route, and it's scary because there's no floor and there's no ceiling. So that's the great part. Super high risk, super high reward. But look, I mean, I'm 35. I feel old, but I'm certain to feel older even, pretty soon in my 40s or something. So now is the time. This is the youngest I'll ever be. If I want to go start something new, sure, I can wait another 7 months and get the next payout of my. I did have to forfeit. Let's see, maybe 30 to 40% of the acquisition sum because I left early. If I waited 7 months, I could have unlocked more. And that's a tough decision because I'm always sitting here wondering today. It's like with selling stock. Did I sell too early? Did I leave too early? Should I have waited the 7 months? So my job is to make sure that I use this time so that I don't have regrets. But I do, look, if you want to plant a tree and you want it to get really tall, the best time to plant it is right now. If you wait 7 months, 7 months is going to pass. You're like, damn it, I should have planted it 7 months ago because now I'd start seeing it already. Or, same with anything. If you want to build some muscle or you're a skinny person and you're just starting to work out, the best time to work out is now because if you wait 7 more months, you could have already had the body you wanted. And so for me, I had the choice between waiting 7 more months or imagining myself 7 months from now having finished the product that I want to build. I would rather be in that position than to see a number go up in my bank account. At some point, the number in a bank account game just stopped doing anything for me and for anyone. You don't need a lot of money to notice that past the staples and the fundamentals, number in bank account is not going to change anything for you. It's not going to change how you feel when you wake up. I don't think about this number when I wake up, when I go to sleep. I'm thinking about my health. I'm thinking about my work, my family, my productivity. And the thought hit me the other day. I was like, wait a minute, even if I don't have any income right now. My cash is depleting very fast. My runway is I don't know. It depends on inflation and what happens with the stock market, things like that. But I don't know. Even if my runway is probably like 5 years or something like that. I don't want to get to zero. So you want to get to a point where it's zero, and I have to start actually start Ubering or something. I don't know if I want to go back into a dev job, but the thought essentially hit me that even if this new product takes off and I start making money, it's like I really have no use for the money. In the sense, I don't have a lot of money, but just to speak philosophically, if the new product starts making tens of millions of dollars, I literally would have nothing that I want that I don't already have in terms of like, the only reason I've ever wanted to make money was to go to this steakhouse here. That's really good. It's called Fogo. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's like so good, but it's a Brazilian steakhouse. It's like $60. And that's the only reason I ever want to make money. But now I'm like trying to watch what I eat, so I don't even want to go there anymore. So I'm like, what am I even working for? Maybe to pay. I just joined the gym again yesterday. My body's. The day I quit Proton, everything starts flaring up, man. Like the next day, I'm like prevented from just like working. My hands start hurting, inflammation everywhere. So I'm going on a health tangent here. But yeah, just really briefly. So yeah, everything starts acting up. I mean, I've had an inflammatory condition ever since I had an MRI 5 years ago, and they inject you with this contrast agent. They call it contrast, but in reality, it's a heavy metal called gadolinium. It's like a toxic heavy metal. They don't tell you that, and it stays in your body forever and ever and ever. But some people, unfortunately, like me, develop a constant reaction to it because it never leaves the body, and my immune system's constantly fighting it. So anyway, it comes and goes. Luckily, over the years, it diminishes like 5%, 10% every year. But you know, the second I quit Proton, for whatever reason, everything just starts flaring up. Can't work. I can't sit. So, long story short, I tried fasting just this last week. I did a 5-day fast, water fast. So no food for 5 full days. It was a great experience. It didn't solve my problems. So, joined the gym yesterday. It's like $180, man. I don't know. Like, that's just, I mean, that membership, Lifetime Fitness, pretty popular, I guess, in the US. But, you know, that membership 10 years ago was like $60. Now it's $180. So now that's what I'm working for. I need to afford my gym membership. So, yeah, that's the, another slight tangent is that I do feel better after actually working out. That I feel better after working out than I did after the 5-day fast. So maybe that's what I got to do, just keep my body moving. But yeah. So yeah, that's the, what was the question again? Any regrets? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Right. I just wanted to understand how the exit at Proton happened and like how you felt at like right now at this point. And I guess like the positive takeaway for me is that at least now you feel like you can kind of do whatever you want to do right now rather than like waiting for 7 months, or that you're kind of, there's no constraints, right? You can kind of execute on whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm actually very curious on what that is. Like, what is it that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so like many of us, I'm super annoyed with Slack. Slack has so many weird oddities about it. It's just a very, I don't know, I think it's a poorly designed product. I mean, it hasn't changed since 2014. It's the same, it's a chat app. It's a chat app that somehow businesses that have hundreds of thousands of team members are using as their main communication platform. It's crazy to me. Like, how did a chat app become the main way we communicate in teams? And it you know, and Slack in particular is so simple, which is good, but so unwilling to change, or so unknowing how to change because of how many users they have, that it's just impossible to change the product really. But you know, so many weird things. Like, one is that you're just hundreds of messages every day, thousands of messages. You never catch up. Every time you catch up, it just lights up. There's no deep work with Slack. You're slacking. I mean, they call it Slack for a reason. I mean, I think it's a very honest name, and maybe it was by design. And then you're just added to channels you don't want to be in, and then it's kind of awkward to leave because it just says Mo is left, and it looks really passive aggressive, and so you just end up muting the channel because you don't want to look like an asshole, and then yeah, I don't know, you know, because you have hundreds of messages, the only way to really organize everything is to mark things as unread and put a book, you know, mark unread from here, and maybe I'll come back later, and you never really end up, I don't know, it's just such a mess. And then if you have all these threads, if you mark one thread as unread, you go back to check that thread, it now reads all of your threads because you clicked threads. It's just awful, man. It's good, it's fast, it's good for just talking really fast to people, but that speed comes at a cost. Yeah, I think people would be much happier with a much saner approach. And the product I'm working on is called Conquer. Conquer, you know, the slogan is Conquer overcomes Slack. And it's not meant to be a one-to-one replacement. I mean, yes, you could use Concur and you should stop using Slack, but it doesn't build on top of Slack. It doesn't take Slack and make it better. It rethinks team communications from first principles, from the ground up. How should teams communicate with one another in a way that is sane and not disrespectful towards other people's time? And, don't get me started about, when people are typing to you and it says on the bottom, Vishnu is typing, and so you just have to sit there and wait because there's like tension and you got to resolve the tension. Like in music, like if you play piano or something, like there's a tension in the key and you have to come back home and resolve it. So when someone's typing, creates a tension in your mind, you want to resolve it, you want to see what this person's saying. So you just sit there waiting. And then when multiple people are typing, it becomes awkward for you to start typing too. It's just so awkward, man. So many things are weird. And so, there has to be a better way. And that is what Concur tries to do. And it does so very simple. It's not a very complex product. I mean, it's taken a long time to build because the product discovery is so involved. But it focuses on discussions, threads. Basically, if you want to say something, have something to say. Like, have something substantial to say. And so it's thread based. There will be chat, but it's not chat in a way where you're inclined to use it for everything. It's designed in a way that chat is a fallback option. And regarding encryption, I've wavered on encryption because it's so damn hard to build that it just makes everything so difficult that I wasn't going to do encryption at all because it's going to be self-hostable. If you want privacy, you just self-host it. So I wasn't going to do encryption, but then I realized there's a very easy way to do end-to-end encryption. So that's what I've done. It's really so what I call it is a privacy key. And it's not like hardcore standard notes signal level encryption. That's not what I'm after this time around. I think that's a really tough business to build, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone to build a signal style business or even a Proton style business. I mean, you're just so constrained by what you can do, and I'm so impressed with how much Proton is able to do given the constraints of encryption. But I didn't want this to be a privacy product. I wanted the product to have privacy, but it's not a privacy product like Standard Notes or Ente or Signal or something like that. And so privacy key is just an optional thing you enable. And if you enable it, it gives you a key, and it's your key. You put it wherever you want. We're not holding on to it for you. We're not doing any asymmetric encryption. And we'll just symmetrically encrypt your content with this key. And that's it. That's it. Nothing. We're not storing this key. Anytime you sign into your account, you need to provide the privacy key. So there's no key rotation. If you change your password, it doesn't matter. There's none of this complicated stuff that made Standard Notes so difficult to build and maintain and upgrade. And so that is the privacy angle here. Just a dead simple sort of switch that if you want it here, go ahead. You can enable. It's privacy from us as the vendor. The main thing that you want, at least in my experience, or in when I seek out a product, the main thing you want to protect against is from the vendor reading your data. Because if the vendor can read your data, then attackers can read your data. The government backdoors can read your data. And so what we're going to do with this privacy key is when you enable it, we're going to tell it. We call it a privacy key, not encryption key. We're going to say, look, go ahead, paste this, give this privacy key to your other team members via text message. Send it via Gmail. It doesn't matter. As long as Concur doesn't see it, you're fine. Because the odds that us as a vendor, Concur, is going to be able to read your Gmail or text messages and get your privacy key is zero. And if a attacker comes in and backdoors us or gets into our database, you're protected. Attacking our database is not going to affect whether your text messages are hacked. So we're treating this as a very low stress privacy concept. Like we're not doing the try hard signal level asymmetric key sharing and public key and private keys. Just one symmetric key. Do whatever you want with it. Just don't let us see it. That's the encryption model, and I think that's a really good compromise. We weren't going to do encryption at all, but I thought this would just be super easy to build, and it was. And I was like, okay, well, this is nice. Like no complicated crypto stuff.
Right.
My interest is not making a $1 billion company.
Do you think Obsidian is open washing?
The really scary thing with open source now is,
What do you think are the long-term ramifications of centralization of data?
in my opinion, privacy is a propaganda layer on top of security. I use AI every day for coding. It's just a tool. I'm going to say impressive too. I mean, you shared 300 million photos recently. Oh, that's really good. That's impressive.